6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody.
How's it going?
It's going. I'm tired, man. That Kohberger sentencing was draining.
Mm-hmm.
Just draining.
Draining and emotional and yeah. We will get into it for sure.
Well, and it's something to just see someone admit in open court to the things that they did, even though he didn't give any details, just to say, yes, I did these things.
Pleading guilty, yeah.
Ugh, makes me sick to my stomach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a day for sure. As we know, the judge did, the plea agreement is published. Okay. Sorry, I just barely saw this.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
It's nothing other than what we haven't already seen, but
yeah.
I'm going to take a quick screenshot and share a little bit of it. But at any rate, it was, I thought, really, the judge started out with, and this has created a lot of controversy online, but the judge started out with talking about how certain individuals had been encouraging people to call his office and talking about why and how that he can't take public commentary, and he did not listen to or watch or read any of the messages, or listen to or read any of the messages that were sent to him, and that some of them have been referred to law enforcement because unfortunately some people apparently got frothed up at the mouth enough to threaten the judge, perhaps. But so he was talking about how he can't actually, take public commentary. All he can do is follow the law. And
he's a judge, not a politician, for God's sakes.
Oh my goodness, that pissed people off. That he was attacking the victims' families. I don't believe he was attacking the victims' families. That did not appear to me to be what he was doing at all. It seemed to me that he was explaining that complaining to me isn't anything that's going to, it's not going to help. I can't. I have to follow the law, period.
And that he has to be transparent.
Yes.
Like, I'm not hiding anything. This has been happening, and you all need to know it has. And it hasn't swayed any decision I'm going to make here.
Yeah. Snow Queen said the poor ladies in trial court administration were taking harassing phone calls about it too. Yeah. Very unfortunate.
It's so weird. People need to get a hold of themselves here.
Mm-hmm.
This was a guilty plea.
Mm-hmm.
This is best case scenario.
Yeah, don't call the courthouse and harass them.
No.
Like, what are y'all doing? Yeah.
They did exactly what their job was to do. Yeah. Which was get this guy.
Yes, and they did. So Kohberger, as we know, did agree. The judge asked him a lot of questions. He has a lot of questions he needs to ask to guarantee that this guilty plea is being made by his own volition, and that it is in adherence to the law. So he did those things. So he did read out the charges and make him one by one say that he was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But
and he did.
Will likely be all we hear from Kohberger. He can speak at his sentencing, but I think it's pretty unlikely that he will.
I'd be really surprised if he has anything to say.
I would as well. He looks skinny, I thought.
Mm-hmm. He does.
He looked skinny and kind of shaky. He looked scared, I thought. When the trial or the hearing started, his shoulders were really slumped, and he's usually pretty, upright and arrogant looking. Not today. You could certainly see where he's started to shrink and realize that he's going behind bars for the rest of his life.
Well, the plan to beat the system has failed,
Completely failed. Yep.
and he really thought he could do it. I think.
Hmm.
I think that he was sure
Yeah,
that he
I
could beat
think
the
so.
system, and it's
Yeah,
a no go.
absolutely. Yeah, the eyebrows are missing. That's kind of interesting, but his eyes look sunken in too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. His eyebrows aren't as dark as they were before.
Mm-mm.
Not as bushy.
Yeah.
I'm sure they brought that down as soon as that was, brought up as being an identifying feature that
Uh-huh. I'm sure that's true. So
they
a few
started
things we
cutting them
didn't
down.
know for sure. Now we know from things the prosecutor said today. He did enter through the second story sliding door into the kitchen, sliding glass
Mhm.
door. That's how he got in. He went straight up to the third floor first,
Yep.
and that's where he murdered Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves. And then he went back down to the second floor and killed Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. We know, of course, that he left the knife sheath. One thing I had not heard before is that the roommate that saw him in the hall said he was carrying a container.
Yeah,
Not
that
heard
was
that
new.
before. I'm curious about what that would be.
Yeah.
But so those are some things we didn't know for sure, but we thought we'd heard, or we thought, because a lot of the things that have kind of eked out, like because there was a gag order that was sort of followed in this case. You hear things here and there, but you're not entirely sure. They did verify today that that thumbs up selfie in the mirror was taken right after he returned home.
Yeah.
We also know
Boy,
that
we could
he,
all feel that just looking at it. Like,
hmm
oh,
yes. The other thing that we know now for sure is that he did return to the crime scene. Uh, and we've wondered forever, and we still wonder, was that to check his work and see if the police were there yet and kind of see what was going on? Or was it because he realized he forgot the knife sheath and he was trying to decide if he was brave enough to go back in?
yeah.
We also know that his phone pinged around the area of that address many, many times before these attacks,
Yeah.
really shortly after he arrived in Washington.
Yeah. Still don't know why that
Yeah,
house, why those people,
why those people?
but it is
Mm-mm.
interesting because, I mean, he would have no reason to go to Moscow and to go in a residential area. He lived in Pullman. He went to school in Pullman. Like, come on.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
it's
kids from those schools like party back and forth and stuff, but Bryan was 28 years
not,
old. I mean, he
he wasn't,
wasn't
yeah,
one of the younger set, and he wasn't the
right.
partying type either. But yeah, so those are some things we do know. Sentencing is going to be on the 23rd of this month at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
The victims' impact statements will be given at that time. Again, at that time, Bryan could speak, though he won't. Did I think? He might. Maybe he'll surprise me. He's surprised us so far, but we'll see. We also know that uh, he'll get 10 years for the burgle, which burglary, in case you don't know, burglary is.
Katie, move your mic a little closer to your face. Some people are saying you're a little hard to hear.
Mm, that's as close as it gets. I'll try to
Oh,
speak
it
up.
just got louder for some
Oh,
reason
okay.
when you did that.
Weird. Okay. Uh, Total train of thought lost.
Sorry.
You're good. Oh, we know that he'll get 10 years for the burglary. Now, some of you were confused about the burglary, wondering what he stole. He didn't steal anything. Breaking into a house is burglary.
Yeah.
So, at least he didn't steal anything that we know of. What was in the
Right.
container? Who knows?
Yes, the
Uh,
container thing is or was it something else and it just appeared like a container in the dark? Like, we don't know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, he's looking at life without parole on all four of the other on all the murders. So
Yeah.
Bryan Kohberger is going away forever. He's never, ever, ever going to get out. And
No.
then this case will finally be ungagged. The prosecution wanted to keep the gag in place until this part is over, till sentencing is over. the defense agreed, and so the judge said, "Yep, let's do it." I think, some of the press, I'd heard things thinking that, assuming it would be ungagged after today, but that is not the case. But again, after that, I agree. I hope Hitler does seal the autopsies. Those are not
Yeah.
things the public need to see. They
No.
sure aren't things that need to be passed around on the internet like some people,
No.
for some reason, do. So, yeah, I agree with that
Yeah.
entirely.
Nobody needs to see those.
Yeah. So that's what's up with Kohberger, but there was other, well, actually, before we do that, I did, as promised, as on the stream earlier today, I did put together a list of all of the trials that we're keeping an eye on that are coming up. So let's take a look. So Nick Rossi, Alaverdian Jingleheimer Schmidt, his Salt Lake County case will be starting on August 5th. And the Utah County case will be starting on September 17th.
Oh, wow. So he'll just go from one right to the other. That's good.
Yeah. Donna Adelson, jury selection begins August 19th. Stephen Stearns. Now, we haven't covered Stephen Stearns extensively. I know some other channels have, but we've been keeping an eye on it. This, of course, was for the murder of his girlfriend's daughter, Madeline Soto.
Yes.
It's unthinkable. Stephen Stearns, his crimes are unbelievable. So he actually has 2 trials. So he has a trial starting on July 25th that is for 60 sex crime charges.
My God.
And then in September, the murder trial is slated to start. Though there's that date seems to be a little shaky whether that will actually happen in September or not. But that's what's coming up with Stephen Stearns. Horrific stuff.
Mm.
Then we have Bryan Walshe on October 20th. Of course, that's for the murder of his wife, Anna. We're going to talk about Bryan Walshe a little bit more today. Shanna Gardner Fernandez and her husband, Mario Fernandez, October 13th.
Okay.
James Craig, I don't know. I thought he was in October. The best I could find today is July 14th.
Oh,
But there
wow.
has
Yeah,
not
I
been
thought he was later.
Yeah, there has not been a single article written about James since like 3 months ago. So I'm going to keep digging on him. I'm not sure. I'm having a tough time with the Colorado repository. So if anybody's good at Colorado records, please help me or let me know
Yeah,
what
we
you're
haven't really
doing,
done much with them.
because I'm having a hard time finding what I need to know about Bryan Walshe. Or no, I'm sorry, about James Craig, but that is definitely a trial we're planning on covering. Then, of course, Lori Vallow sentencing on July 25th and Bryan Kohberger on July 23rd. So
Yeah.
getting towards the end of this month, we're going to really pick up with both of those. And then, of course, starting to get into some of these other trials. So, yeah. So now you know. And if there's any other trials that I missed or that you guys are thinking about, let us know. Those are the ones that I know we've had a pretty close eye on.
The other one is the Wagner trial, but there is no
Right.
date for it. So
Yeah.
we'll keep watching on that.
Yeah. But speaking of trials, the Diddy jury came back today, so let us have it.
Oh, boy. The Diddy jury came back yesterday with verdicts on everything but one. And the judge sent them back and said, you're going to get them all before we finish here. He didn't want to let them hang. So they didn't. They came back and found him guilty on the 2 charges of transporting for prostitution. And he was not guilty on everything else. Not guilty on the sex trafficking, assault, RICO, all not guilty.
Wow.
It's very discouraging and sickening to me. Although I have to say, right, Natasha, I've all along been like, where's the evidence on RICO? Where's, I don't think that they did a very good job of prosecuting this case. You'd think after 10 years of investigating him, they would have more.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people that don't want anything to do with this and won't testify. And, there's a lot of reasons, but
Yep.
it's gross because he's going to get very little time.
It's true, however, I think most people will no longer touch him with a 10-foot pole. I mean, if
That's the hope for
anything
sure.
good comes from this, please God, make it be that no one else sends their budding musician children to stay with him for a while.
Yeah, let's
Please
just
don't
make sure
send your little boys
that
to this
doesn't
man's
happen.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sentencing is October 3rd. He really wanted bail. He wanted to be able to bond out
Mm-hmm.
between now and sentencing. The judge said no, which good. I mean, you talk about flight risk. This man has unlimited resources.
Yeah.
There's no way he would stay around for sentencing and to actually serve his time.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge said no, that he's going to sit. But I mean, he could only get a couple of years. This is
Mm-hmm.
not that much. It's just not that much. He's going to do some
No.
federal time, but he also has been in prison this entire time as well,
Jail. Yeah.
or jail. I mean, therefore, he's got quite a bit of time served.
Yeah.
Right? How is he guilty of the transporting for prostitution? How is that not sex trafficking? Several of you in the chat are saying that, and that's been my
Mm-hmm.
question too. It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
But I mean, honestly, he definitely got convicted of the very smallest charges he had,
Yeah.
and not any of the bigger ones. So seems
Yeah.
discouraging to me.
It does. There was a statement by Cassie's attorney today just
Yes,
indicating how concerned they are for her safety at this point.
yes, she's scared to death. She's testified
Yeah.
against him, and they found him not guilty on the case revolving around her.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very scary. But that's what we know. So he's
Yeah.
going to be sitting in jail at least until October 3rd, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Because he'll certainly get credit for time served, and are they going to give him more than that? I don't know. Honestly,
I don't have a lot of faith in that. Yeah.
I don't either.
No. Well, let's talk about Bryan Walshe for a minute.
Yes.
So this is Bryan Walshe. Bryan Walshe has been charged with murdering his wife Anna. And we covered this case when it happened. We've talked about it quite a bit in the beginning, and then, it kind of got quiet. But Anna disappeared somewhere around January 4th, 2023. Yeah. So she was, of course, married to Bryan. What we know is that they had dinner together on New Year's Eve, 2022. And then in the first hours of 2023, we know that Anna tried to call her mother, her sister, and her maid of honor, all of whom were unavailable. And then we believe the last she was seen was actually that date around 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Bryan says he spent the whole day in Swampscott with his mother. This all happened in Massachusetts, around the Boston area. We know on January 4th that both her employer and Bryan Walshe reported her missing. We know that Bryan was initially in trouble for lying to the police about where he had been and what he was up to on January 1st. And he pled not guilty on that. The prosecutor says that he went to Home Depot in Rockland, Massachusetts on January 2nd and spent $450 on cleaning supplies. They also claim that they found in the basement blood as well as a damaged bloody knife. He was arrested again on January 18th and charged with murder and disinterring a body without authority. So prosecutors are saying they believe that he beat Anna to death and dismembered her and disposed of her body.
God almighty.
So we're getting closer to trial. Well, there's a problem with some of the evidence. And the problem is that some of the same players, remember Michael Proctor? Yeah, he and his pals
Oh, right.
were involved in investigating this crime. And you know how those guys tend to freestyle and do what they want? Well,
Mm-hmm.
here's the problem. The electronic evidence is in trouble
Uh-oh.
because the defense is saying that they believe that that evidence was acquired improperly, illegally.
I mean, the defense can say that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but is it looking like it might be true?
It's kind of concerning, yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So there was a hearing last Wednesday, with to talk about the third motion to suppress the results of the search of his phone and iPads. So the state police investigator that testified is Sergeant Yuri Buchanek, who also testified in the Karen Reed trial.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the Google searches, and the one that's the big hot topic, was at 5 a.m. on January 1st. He Googled how to stop a body from decomposing.
Oh, good God.
Mm-hmm. Right. But here's the problem. They had a very limited scope of what they could look for on his phone and his iPad. At the time, Anna was missing. They hadn't decided that she was necessarily deceased. And because he had
Right.
spun up some whole story that she had flown to DC in a big hurry for work and yada yada. So at any rate, they had not determined that she was deceased at this point. So they
Mm-hmm.
asked him if they could search his messages, the messages that he had between the two of them. That's what they had permission from him. They didn't actually have a warrant. They just had permission from him to look at these things.
Oh, no.
But they went
And then they
way
looked at other
further than
stuff.
that. There were other searches. How long before a body begins to smell? How long for anyone to be missing to inherit? Can you be charged with murder without a body? Can identification be made on a partial remains? How to clean blood from a wooden floor?
Oh, my God. Fucking monster.
But they didn't have permission to search his search history. They had permission to look at his messages between Bryan and Anna. And they
Did they,
told,
go get a warrant right then?
well, they told him that they'd have to have a search warrant or broader consent to go deeper. But unfortunately, they went deeper before they had a warrant.
Ugh. Shit.
So, however, Walsh's lawyers have filed 3 times and haven't gotten what they wanted yet. So, we'll see. But it is concerning. It's concerning because of these bumbling fools that just seem to be really struggling with following the law and doing things correctly in multiple cases. So we'll
Right.
see. We'll see. I really hope that evidence does not get tossed because that's really big. They don't have a
God,
body
that's
in this
damning as
case.
hell.
Yeah.
Right.
And those searches are absolutely damning. So
Yeah.
we'll see because, again, his trial is supposed to start on October 20th.
Yeah.
Of course, the defense has, gone clear balls to the wall and they're asking a complete dismissal because of them improperly getting that evidence. And of course, they're not going to get that. But if
No,
any of that evidence or all of it is thrown out, that could be really bad for the state
it
in
could.
this
That
case.
sucks. They need to get these idiots out of their jobs. I know some of them are, but not all of them. They need to get rid of
Mm-hmm.
cops in that department that behave like that. What the hell, man?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
They know what the law is. They know what a defense attorney is going to do with that. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, talk to us about Alan Bruce.
Yes. So this is a local case to us. We brought to you a few weeks ago. This is Alan Bruce. Alan Bruce is accused of first-degree murder of Patrick Shelton, and this is up in the Challis, Idaho area. If you recall, Patrick Shelton went missing. And when the police got to Alan Bruce's house, they found some real sketchy shit. And it appears that he dismembered poor Patrick Shelton, put his body in a burn barrel, and then dumped it over a bridge into the river. He is now charged with first-degree murder, as well as several other charges. So destruction of evidence, failure to notify of a death, unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and an enhancement for being a persistent violator. Because this dude's got quite a history, and he's basically been hiding out in the woods up in Chalice, Idaho, which, considering both of the Idaho cases, well, not both, but two of the Idaho cases we're going to be talking about tonight, that is a thing that happens here, unfortunately, is that people hide out in Idaho, and they come hide out where nobody will know where they are, because he'd been in a lot of trouble, and he had a bunch of guns, and he wasn't allowed to have guns because he was a felon. And he did try to claim self-defense initially, which is pretty tough when he was uninjured, and Patrick Shelton is gone.
Yeah.
He did actually tell the police that he killed him, and he also said that he dismembered him with a chainsaw, which is absolutely horrifying. He says he burned his remains and threw them into the Salmon River. Guess who his attorneys are?
Just guess.
Jim Archibald and John Thomas. Because, here in Idaho, we have a very small number of death penalty certified attorneys. Now, death penalty has not been attached yet in this case, but it could be. This is a first-degree murder charge. And so they were just in court yesterday, I think, with a prelim with the judge, basically giving all the reasons for which they want to have this sent over into district court and him charged with first-degree murder and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because, he did, in fact, admit this to the police.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
when they asked him why he didn't call the police, if, he was trespassing on his property and this was self-defense, he said, shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Yep, that is exactly what he said. That is so terrifying. My God, this guy's just, what else has this man done?
Right. I think that's the question.
It does make you wonder.
Yep.
So it appears that he will be headed off to trial.
Yeah.
It's just such a sad thing. This never had to happen.
No.
In any way. If you recall, one of the reasons that they caught him is because they found Patrick Shelton's truck up in the woods, and on the ground by the truck was a piece of mail that belonged to who? Alan Bruce.
Yeah.
We're not talking genius level criminality here, but this guy is definitely going to trial on first-degree murder.
Good.
What is going on in the state of Idaho, right? We're a great example of what's going on in this entire country right now.
We are a hot, hot mess.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not okay, let's talk about Utah some more.
Oh boy, right?
Because they're an easy target. Sorry, Utah, but you just are. All right.
When we get tired of talking about us, we talk about you.
Yep. This is Ned Brady Hansen. You guys remember Ned Hansen? This is the former Tremonton Fire Chief. Remember, this was the duo of judge and fire chief that were swapping child or CSAM materials, and they were both eventually arrested. So I'll tell you for sure, guys, this beat marches slowly with the judge, and there is not much being reported. But because I've been checking every single week to bring you updates on what's going on with his case, and there is not much. But with Ned Hansen, one of the things that happened after he was arrested, and he was charged with initially a bunch of CSAM type charges.
Right.
And then So let's see. I want to find those for sure. Yeah. So the charges initially were for possessing child sex abuse material. Well, right after that, a family member had filed a civil suit against him
Mm-hmm.
regarding him assaulting one of their children, right? Well, he has finally now been charged for that because that was just a civil suit. So now he
Yeah,
has
we'd
finally been.
wondered then, like, whoa, where's the criminal
Where's
charges?
the criminal charges? Here they finally are. The FBI got involved after the initial arrest and after the civil suit was filed. So the child is younger than 10,
God.
and the FBI agent that had investigated his social media accounts and said that messages that he found sent by Hansen to other users corroborated the child's victim account, or the victim's account.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The
Now there's
brazenness of this,
yeah.
right? Like, this guy didn't ever think he'd ever get caught.
There's actually 2 children named in the civil suit, so we're unsure right now if he's going to be charged for both children or not. This is the first criminal charge alleging child abuse that came out today, but there could be more coming. So now we've added a felony aggravated sexual abuse of a child. This guy could not be worse, man.
And he
Could
was the
not be
fire
worse.
chief
Yep.
in his community.
And when he was arraigned and taken in front of the judge immediately let him out on bail, and people were horrified. Well, it wasn't, what, a week? And we learned the reason why is because that judge had been colluding with him.
Yeah.
And that
Was
judge was
also
then
involved.
charged. Yep.
Yeah.
And the new judge in charge was like, oh, hell no. You are coming back to jail. You should not have been given bail. He didn't have any right to give you anything, and you're coming back. But
Well, yeah, he didn't even, like, he should have recused himself immediately because he knew him.
But instead,
Like,
he let him out.
let him out.
Yeah.
God.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. But yeah, I'll bet you there's more assault charges coming, sexual abuse charges coming for him. But worst of the worst.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Talk to us. Speaking about the worst of the worst, talk to us about Travis Decker.
Little bit of news in Travis Decker. Of course, Travis Decker is the man who is currently wanted for the first-degree murder of his 3 daughters. This is out of Washington. He is still missing. But some things did come out. There was blood on the tailgate of his pickup, because if you remember, the children and his vehicle were found in a campground, and there was blood on the tailgate of the pickup. And they have now made a DNA match that blood is actually his blood, which is weird because the girls were suffocated.
Yeah.
So there's questions about why his blood was there.
Yeah.
It also, there were personal items in the campground that they were assuming were his. They've been able to match them now with that DNA to prove that there is no evidence of any other person in the campground besides himself and the 3 children.
Yeah.
Because that was a question, like, hey, was he there alone? Did someone help him with this? He is still missing. And, you know, there have been maybe sightings of him, maybe not. They really, his wallet and cell phone were there, and like he just walked away. And so there's a lot of question about, did he go somewhere and take his own life? Where is this dude?
Yeah.
They're still looking, but they've now confirmed for sure that he was definitely the only other person in the area.
Yep. That needed to be confirmed, I think, because there were people that were thinking maybe he didn't do this at all. Maybe he was actually a victim, but no.
Right. No. There's all indications that, in fact, no, he did this and then took off. I really think probably that you're right, Susie, that he probably did go somewhere and take his own life. He's out in some real rugged wilderness, and
Mm-hmm.
they're still looking for him. But you'd think if he was alive, something would have surfaced by now. This has
Yeah.
been going on for a month.
I will say when the active shooter situation in northern Idaho happened on
We
Sunday,
wondered.
everybody wondered, yeah, could this be
Hmm.
Travis Decker?
Yeah,
In reality, it's 250 miles away, and he didn't have a vehicle that we know of, but of course he could have stolen something. But I think
right.
everybody kind of went, is it possible? Could it be
Yeah,
Travis Decker? But of course we
yeah.
know it was not. But
No, but yeah, I definitely had that question for a little while.
yeah,
So we'll continue to keep an eye on this case. I mean, obviously, uh, for the mother of those little girls, my God, can they please just find this idiot
yeah,
and end this for her?
yeah. Well, I certainly hope so. Well, some interesting news in the Lucy Letby situation. So, if you remember, Lucy Letby was a nurse in England that was convicted of several murders. Lucy was murdering babies in the NICU,
Yeah.
like neonatal babies in the NICU. And she had a very long trial and was convicted. One of the things that stood out to me from Lucy is that when they searched her home, there were notes all over her apartment that she had written talking about the fact that she did this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what a monster she was and that she couldn't stop. And it's a terrible, terrible case. 8 babies murdered. Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot. Well, everybody kind of went, how was she? Did she continue to get away with this after one, after two?
Right.
Like, well, now there has been arrests of 3 former hospital staffers on suspicion of manslaughter.
Whoa.
So she was actually convicted for killing 7 babies, but I don't think she was charged for all of them.
Right.
So there are 3 former senior members of staff at the hospital where she worked. All 3 of them were subsequently bailed out. We know that she was convicted of murdering 7 infants and attempting to murder 6 others at the Countess of Chester Hospital in England, and that she was found guilty. Well, these 3 are all arrested on suspicion of manslaughter.
So did they know
Did they know?
and not do anything to stop her?
It's arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. That's the whole charge.
Wow.
Yeah. They're saying that this doesn't impact the convictions of Lucy Letby at all for her offenses, but this is a step further in trying to get justice and figure out what the hell happened in this case.
Right.
So that's about all we know. This
Negligence
just
and
happened 2
not
days ago.
protecting those babies from someone they knew was dangerous,
Yeah,
probably. God.
entirely. Yep. Yeah, they made doctors apologize for suspecting her. Yeah. They
Oh, yeah.
mollycoddled her, they babied her, they let her get away
So
with
bad.
this. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah, other staff were suspecting her and were saying there's something weird going on with her. And yeah, they were made to apologize for thinking so.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll
Which
keep
tells
an
you
eye on
exactly why that
that.
continued to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
God almighty.
So I think there's a little more in Wess Rolley.
Yeah. Okay. So Wess Roley is the suspect in the firefighter shootings in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that happened this past Sunday. Just a lot of kind of background information coming out about him now. Some things I wanted to share. Uh, he was expelled from school in the 10th grade for making violent threats.
Oh.
He had briefly lived with his father in Priest River. His father kicked him out. From there, he actually had rented from somebody, had roommates for a short time in Sandpoint, Idaho. They also had to kick him out due to his odd behavior and just
Ugh.
not 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 acting like a roommate ought to act,
Uh-huh.
and just creeping them out.
Mm-hmm.
The roommate said that at first he was just really quiet, but over time he got kind of weirder and weirder. He said at one point he shaved off all his hair and he was keeping really late hours. He kept using the roommate's stuff, monopolizing the things in the house, playing video games really till the early morning hours. And they just had enough of him and threw him out.
Mm-hmm.
So then from there, he's been living in his vehicle ever since. He talked a lot about wanting a girlfriend, and this was kind of a theme that was common around him, although it didn't seem that he was doing anything to like make someone like him. And real incel energy here with this
Yeah.
young man. Let's see what else. Oh, a classmate from Arizona at the North Phoenix Prep where he went to school told has told reporters that he was a real bully,
Mm-hmm.
particularly LGBT kids, and was just really mean. He was also known to have outbursts of neo-Nazi propaganda, and he liked to doodle swastikas and other Nazi symbols on his notebook. He apparently has had quite a fascination with white nationalism and neo-Nazism.
Oh my God.
And he really freaked a lot of people out with that stuff, obviously, because anybody with a half a brain. He's also been known to be a Holocaust denier.
Oh God.
Yeah. Disgusting. There was a
But he was
Bible
really
teacher.
spiraling during
He
this
was
time.
really spiraling.
Yeah.
A local Bible teacher and pastor had talked to him a little bit and was kind of trying to see if maybe she could help him, but he really freaked her out. And at one point, he tried to get her to get in the vehicle with him and go somewhere, and she didn't do it. She said she was afraid to do it, didn't go anywhere with him.
Smart.
She said he was talking to her about his fascination with white nationalism and this showing a lot of really troubling signs that he was a scary dude.
Yikes.
So those are the things we're learning about him. I guess he landed in the right part of the world if he was into neo-Nazism and white nationalism.
Yeah, but why the firefighters?
Right. Why target the firefighters? We still don't know. We don't, as far as we know, he didn't have any affiliation to any particular group that we are aware of at this point. We do know that he had, expressed interest in being a firefighter. But beyond that, we really don't know why he did what he did, why he targeted firefighters. There's a lot of stuff we still don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely a very troubled person who really spiraled out of control, but had been not well for a long time.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Wow.
His own family couldn't even live with them. They couldn't let him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was only 20.
Yeah.
And he was just thrown out into the world.
He really was.
That's
the sound of things. He'd basically come to Idaho to live with his dad in Priest River because things were not going well at home in Arizona. But he was too scary for them.
Yeah.
And they kicked him out. So I'm sure we're going to learn more things. There's still a lot we don't know, but he follows the mass shooter
profile
guidelines.
Yep. Oh, dang it. But as far as we know, the injured firefighter has lived, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So there's one bright spot in an absolutely terrible thing.
Yeah.
There was an incident yesterday in Idaho Falls where a man was having a huge meltdown in the parking lot of a nursing home.
Yeah.
In fact, it was the same facility that our grandma lived in until she passed.
Yeah.
That resulted in him, he was armed, and it resulted in him finally taking his life. It was a
Yeah.
horrible, traumatic event. People are just
SWAT
so
was there
unwell.
trying to get him to get out of the car, trying to get the weapon from him, and he finally fired on himself
Hmm.
right in front of all of them.
Yep.
Apparently, the police had come to serve a warrant on him, and they were trying to arrest him. He worked there,
Hmm.
and he freaked out and got in his car and started threatening to kill himself.
And he
And they
did.
tried for a while to de-escalate him, and he just took his own life.
In the parking lot of a nursing home.
Yeah, really scary.
So scary. And this went on for quite a while. People who had a family in that nursing home were terrified.
When they were moving people as far away from like that part of the building, and trying to kind of evacuate people, businesses around them, put them on lockdown, that kind of thing, to try to, because they didn't know what this guy was going to do.
Yeah.
Sandy is very hi,
She's
very
wound
intense
up.
right now. She
Yes.
is.
All these stories. She's heard enough.
She's like, this is too much. Too
I'm
much.
sorry, Sandy, but we're not done. However,
Yeah.
I have a little different update, and that is, you guys remember Victor Perez. Victor was the child with cerebral palsy that was murdered by the police in Pocatello, Idaho, earlier this year.
Yeah.
And we know that the parents had hired a human rights attorney to help them. Well, two things have happened with them over this last week. Uh, One is that they have officially filed suit against the Pocatello police. And the other one is that they had planned a meeting, a truth and reconciliation meeting with the local community. And they did that, and a lot of people showed out to hear what they had to say. You know who was there? One city councilman.
One.
You know who wasn't?
All the
The
rest.
mayor, the rest of the city council.
Brian Blad. No way in hell would he show up. He's
Brian Blad needs to be voted out. My God.
Yeah, he does.
But I wanted to tell you a little bit about the lawsuit. So these suits are things that can take forever, and the Pocatello police have yet to, or actually, I guess it's been moved to the state attorney's office, but we've yet to hear any kind of disciplinary nature or anything that they're doing about this.
Nothing.
If we ever do hear, which I think it's likely they're just trying to wait this out. But luckily, no, because John Burris is the attorney representing the Perez family, and he's saying, yeah, we're not going to let this go away.
Yeah.
So part of the lawsuit
Good.
is that the Americans with Disabilities Act requires law enforcement to find alternatives to deadly force when officers are aware an individual has a disability. Well, as we know now, they did know. They had several interactions with Victor and his family, the Pocatello police did, before they showed up there, guns blazing, and shot this little boy for absolutely no reason at all, and did absolutely nothing to de-escalate or try to help with the situation.
They knew this was the home of a disabled kid.
Yep.
It's so disgusting.
And they did not care. And as you recall, they were only out of their cars for about 18 seconds before they started firing.
Yeah. They made no attempt to de-escalate. They made no attempt to understand what was happening. If you remember, Victor had a knife in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He was stumbling around and falling because he has cerebral palsy and didn't walk particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
And he had two family members who were trying to get the knife away from him.
Yeah.
He was obviously very upset. Police who were apparently at risk from this young man, even though they were behind a fence from him, and he was certainly not someone that was going to be able to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
They shot at him. 3 of them did, and they hit him 9 times.
Yeah. Literally blew one of his legs off.
Yeah. So badly shot that it had to be amputated.
Amputated, and then he laid in a coma for several days before he died.
Yeah.
For what? For what?
Nothing.
And then the community, who was angry and frustrated, had a vigil. And the way the police responded to the vigil? With snipers on roofs around the vigil.
Yep. Again, treating the public as though they are the danger.
Yeah.
Clearly not the case.
This entire thing has been handled very poorly.
So badly.
The other thing that the family's attorney is saying is that they're also exploring additional lawsuits for the other family members that were standing right next to Victor when he was gunned down, because their lives were also put at risk.
It's a fucking miracle that they didn't shoot and kill the family members that were there. They weren't running from Victor. They were running to Victor. They were trying to get a knife from him because they were afraid he was going to harm himself.
Yeah.
Not harm anyone else, harm himself.
Yeah.
And had the police taken 1 minute to assess the situation, they would have seen that. It's clear on the video that the family members were not at risk from him. They were trying to help him.
Yeah.
He was not trying to harm them.
Right.
You
there
can
was one
see
family member standing next to him and one standing behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, how those two women
and a
did
neighbor
not get
right
shot.
next to the fence.
Right next to the fence. Yep.
And the police ran up and fired like that.
Yep.
It's insane.
So we're not going to shut up about it, and we don't want anyone
No,
else to
you're
shut
not.
up about it, because there has to be some accountability here. But I'm so
Absolutely.
glad that the family has an attorney. The family is from Puerto Rico. There is definitely a language barrier, and they need help. And so
They do.
I'm so grateful they're getting
And they've
it.
got it. This is a high-powered civil rights attorney from not from here that is taking this case.
I'm sure, much to the dismay of the Pocatello police, this case made national news really fast.
Yeah. Did.
So,
the video, because the video, someone filmed it. The people who called 911 filmed it because they thought they were calling the police to help the situation, and were absolutely horrified when the police came and just murdered that kid right in front of them, and they had it on video.
Yep. So we'll keep keeping an eye on it, and we're going to keep talking about it, because this family needs justice. Victor needs justice.
Sure does.
So lastly for tonight, Kristi, you have an update for us in Emily Pike.
Yes, there's an update in Emily Pike. If you remember this darling girl right here, this is such a heinous case. Emily Pike, his remains were found dismembered in a remote area. She was 14. She had been living in a group foster home. This is in Arizona. And official cause of death has now been released, which is homicidal violence with blunt head trauma. So she died from head trauma. It wasn't necessarily immediately obvious because she had been dismembered and parts of her body found in more than one location. But we now know that she was hit in the head and killed and then dismembered. And she had gone missing from this group home.
Yeah.
At this point, they still really have no idea what happened. She took off from the group home. We don't know why. If she was headed off to meet someone, maybe. Kind of seems like that might be the case. No arrests have been made yet. There is a $75,000 reward now for anyone with independently verifiable information identifying the individual or individuals responsible for her disappearance and murder. This poor girl had been through it. She had been through a lot of stuff, had been in the system, and wanted to see her family.
Yeah.
The reward actually, so there's more than one reward. There is a $200,000 reward coming from Gila County. And then a $27,000 reward is being offered by Silent Witness. And the San Carlos Apache tribe is offering $75,000. So there's $302,000 in reward if somebody would please come forward and tell us who killed Emily.
Wow. I really, really hope this case gets solved.
Oh, I want it to so much.
Yeah.
Emily deserves some justice for maybe once in her whole life.
And her poor mom does too. My God.
Yeah. I worked in a group foster home, and I knew kids like Emily that had been bounced around in and out of the system, on reservations, off reservations, really no respect at all for their culture
Yeah.
or their connection to their families. It's a terrible place for a 14-year-old kid to be.
All they want to do is go home.
Yeah, that's all they want. They just want to go home to their families.
Yep.
Yeah,
I hate this case. So sad.
Oh, Tall Red says her death reminds me of Tylee. Yeah. She died in such a brutal way.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just a little girl. She was 14.
Yep. Yikes.
So that's what we know right now. I hope the next announcement is that they have arrested the fuckers that did this to her.
Yeah.
Or whoever, 1, 2, I don't know, whatever.
I'm guessing this was more than one person. But
very well could be. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to hold space that this will not be one of those cases that just falls into obscurity. It certainly seems like it's getting more attention than, unfortunately, than MMIW cases frequently get.
Yes.
So I'm
yes.
I'm grateful
well,
for
there
Emily.
are a lot of people not letting this go.
Yeah.
A lot of people in her community are not letting this go, and that is the thing that you have to do. It's just like with Victor Perez. Communities have to speak up and not let this go.
Yep. Absolutely. Right, Gran. Hope there's DNA, right? I mean,
yeah, we don't know very much about what evidence they do have.
Yeah. But it's a good thought, and I hope so too. Let them find them and hold them accountable so this doesn't happen to another little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Well, that's what we've got, and that was a lot. What a day. What an exhausting, emotional, wild true crime day. We're going to be back tomorrow at 3. While we haven't discussed this, I think we really ought to consider making tomorrow like a crazy crime day or something along those lines.
I think we need that.
We really need to. We need to have some fun. We need to mock some idiots.
Yeah, let's do some fun cases because we
got to blow off some steam. Yeah, it's been a very heavy week, especially here in Idaho. My God, we've had a week.
Man, we have.
Yeah. All right, so you can expect tomorrow at 3 a wild show of not so heavy and sad. Okay.
Definitely.
All righty, you guys, go take care of yourselves. Have a good night. Go touch grass and breathe some fresh air and pet your cats and, do something that isn't true crime for a minute, and we will too. And we'll be back tomorrow at 3. Thanks for being here. Please like, share, follow. The super chat is on. You can also always tip us over at Buy Me a Coffee as well. You can find that by going to truecrimesquad.com and find our link there. Always appreciated. Of course, never expected or required, but we appreciate your support very much. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.
Season 6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.